you miss me? I've been out of it comatose, but the depression is over.
Hello and welcome to Controlled Burns, the weekly hobbylist podcast from me, your host, Andrew Burns, or Slow Burn from Wildfire Gaming. It's been a few weeks, but I am rejoined again by my wife, Reagan, for this week's episode. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Andrew.
I had a bit of a busy week, both of us did really, and I didn't really have a ton of time to plan out the next episode of the podcast or work on writing out the next 20 entries in my top 100 artists of all time list. I did do some of them. But one thing that did happen this week was we got our hands on the two latest expansions in the Disney and Star Wars Villainous board games.
Yes, after many failed attempts at
That is
several
true.
different
I didn't even
targets,
think about that, talking about that painful experience. But
they
the
finally mailed them to us.
yes, it's always a pretty, I would say, major event here in this house when new Villainous expansions are released.
Absolutely.
And you don't hear a ton of people talking about Villainous, I feel, outside of dedicated Villainous communities. So I thought it would be fun for us, since it's kind of top of mind for us right now, to talk about our history with the game and what we like about it and what we would like to see from future expansions.
Yes, definitely a divisive game in our households when we introduce it to family members and such.
That's true.
But we feel very strongly about this game.
Mhm.
Excited to talk about it.
Yes. So just a reminder before we do that, Controlled Burns is a weekly hobby list podcast with a particular focus on lists and topics related to video games, music, TV, and film, as well as other hobbies and aspects of pop culture like Disney Villainous.
Yes.
If you're interested in writing into the podcast and having your comments or questions read on air, you can write in at controlledburns with an es at gmail.com.
Love to hear from you.
So the first thing I thought that would make the most sense for a discussion about Villainous for us is talking about how we got into Villainous,
Yes.
which was a fateful pull from that Indian's house, if you want to talk about that.
Shout out to the Anzaris. We were dog sitting a lovely high maintenance dog named Bella.
Very honest.
Total sweetheart. And the owners of Bella were so kind as to give me a thorough tour of every inch of their house, which included the game
Which is
closet.
it's considerable because it was a very large house.
Yes, it was very nice. And they let Andrew come and stay with me as I watched their little angel.
Which we definitely had to get approval for because they monitor it on like a bunch of different cameras.
Yes. That was an interesting one, but they were super nice. And
Actually, Reagan ghosted him, so we don't have anything to do with him
Andrew,
anymore. That is what happened.
I moved away is what happened.
Okay.
And now we have two fur babies of our own, and it's all good.
That is true.
Um, anyway,
No need to add more.
they have never played this game, or at least
No,
didn't.
they said that they had tried to play it.
Okay, they've never played a full round of this
That
game.
might be true, but they said that they had at least tried it before.
I think they were intimidated by the instructions and gave up.
And that is understandable because I also was intimidated by the instructions. So we would do this a lot because Reagan actually, it wasn't just them. She dog sat at various people's houses and we would raid their game closets when we would go over there. But these were the richest people that we dog sat for. And so they had the richest game closet and it had included Villainous, which was probably something they just bought on a whim, even though it was probably $50.
The original pack.
Yeah. And so we'd never heard of it before, right? You never heard of
No.
it? Yeah, I had certainly never heard of it. And so Reagan was like, well, we like Disney and we like villains, so let's try this. And I was like, well, let's see. And then she was like looking at how the instructions and all the characters were different. It sounded very complicated. And I was like, I don't think I want to play this.
But I pushed
Mhm.
and I said that often the best games take the most work to get into. You just got to
Yes.
push through that first little binge of uh, the instruction booklet. And I mean, now they have videos and stuff.
They have videos in. I remember us pulling it up.
Oh, we did.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know.
It was ridiculous. It had all that ridiculous acting of like the villains playing each other.
That's right. Well, I know they do more
That was
videos
probably
with
like
every
the original
expansion.
one.
Anyway, so I convinced them to push through.
Yes.
We did our first match.
Do you remember who it was?
I believe I was Ursula and you were Prince John.
That is correct. And guess how it turned out?
I won.
Yes, of course. And I lost.
Which might be surprising to the villainous community because they say Ursula is the hardest character ever.
Well, yeah, that's true, and we will get into that. But it did take a pretty long time to learn the rules. I do remember that,
Mhm.
and I do remember that being a hump. And I was annoyed that I lost, also.
Well, Andrew, so Villainous has been a test for Andrew
Yes, it
and
has.
being a good loser. I think that we're pretty equally matched.
Right. Well, which we're going to get into because I have our records.
But I am, I think, the better loser of the two.
You are definitely the better loser. I actually think that you're better at the game as well. But anyway, we'll get
Interesting.
we'll get into that And as I get into, I have a section where we kind of dissect that. But even though I was frustrated, and even though it took a long time to learn, I did. By the end of the game, I was like, "Yeah, this is awesome."
Hmm.
And obviously, I understood just from that game. It's like, okay, these two characters played totally differently from each other.
Well, that's the
Um,
coolest part is each character has their own objective. You
mhm,
get to play as different villains, and you have your own board
right.
for each one. So it's a totally different experience for each character.
Yes, and it's card based, which I enjoyed as well. And but anyway, just from that experience of having the two characters go against each other, and I was like, there's four other characters that we haven't even touched yet.
Hmm.
So that was like pretty exciting. And so by the end of that game, I was like, yeah, this is awesome. We definitely need to try the others. And to the point where I was annoyed with the Ansaris for not just giving it to us because they clearly didn't care about it. But so because they didn't, we pretty much immediately, I seemed like after we left, went and got our own box.
Yes, and I think we were doing a lot of dog sitting
We
that
were. It
summer.
was the summer of 2022, which was our max dog sitting period. And
Hmm.
we did them, we did the cooks, we did the sandboards as well. It was like there was a solid 2 to 3 weeks in a row where we didn't even return to Greenville. And I
Yeah.
remember that because I had foolishly left some tea in a cup, and then when I got back, it was all nasty. But anyway, we could do that back then because didn't have cats like we do now.
Yeah, you might be hearing them. They're
No,
being
probably.
as annoying as possible
Yeah,
right now.
as usual. But yeah, so we pretty much bought our own quickly after we wrapped that up, bought our own version of the main box, and we got to learning all of the characters during that summer. I think that was kind of earlier on in the summer when we tried out the Ansaris, and then we took Villainous with us to other houses. Like I definitely
Yes.
remember playing it at the Cooks.
I remember
Um,
doing Star Wars for the first time at the
well,
Cooks.
that's the other thing I was going to get into because the Star Wars version came out during that summer. It was there in August 2022, so it was
Right.
like pretty awesome.
And Star
Um,
Wars is only compatible with other Star Wars
mm,
packs. Disney's only compatible with Disney,
yeah.
and then there's that other one that no one cares about called
We'll
Marvel.
talk about that too. Before we got into Star Wars, though, because it wasn't out yet, we were just
Hmm.
like, we were really playing a lot. We played the six characters and we kind of had our rankings for the six characters. I remember when it was just the six and we were
Yeah,
ranking the six.
I think we ranked them at Longhorn Steakhouse.
Well, perhaps, because I definitely remember talking about it at the Cooks, which,
Hmm.
we probably were going to Longhorn and stuff while we were staying there. But after we got, kind of accustomed to those six, we learned that there were actually quite a few expansions that existed at that time because this is 2022, like I said, and the game debuted in 2018, so they had actually had some time to lay out like different ones. So there were, and I remember at Longhorn looking up the expansions. Remember, we were like looking up who was in each one, and like there was like
Right.
a ranking of them, which was not a very good ranking, but that's not surprising.
Lots of bad lists out there.
Yes. So there were five expansions. So the majority of the Disney expansions that are currently out were out then, and that was also back when the expansions were bigger because expansions were three characters back then instead of one or two like it is now.
Right.
And so let's just go through it really fast. So like the original box, it was Captain Hook, Jafar, Maleficent, Prince John, Queen of Hearts, and Ursula.
Yes.
And then the first expansion was Wicked to the Core, which was the one with Dr. Facilier, the Evil Queen, and Hades. That was not the first one we got, though.
No, definitely not.
Then we got Evil Comes Repair, which was the first one that we got, which was the one with Radigan, Scar, and Yzma.
That one we definitely played at the Cokes.
I remember being at Longhorn, like having just bought it and going over there and being excited to play it.
And that might still be my favorite expansion.
Well, we're gonna find out eventually. Not in this episode, but stay tuned. Then we
Yes.
have Perfectly Wretched, which has Cruella de Vil, Mother Gothel, and Pete. There, I definitely remember buying that and then going to your mom's house and playing it. I think. Well, actually, I think we got that one and Despicable Plots, which is the one that has Gaston, Horn King, and Lady Tremaine, like at the same time. Maybe.
Right.
I think that was a Barnes and Noble purchase.
Oh, okay.
So that was that, and then right that same year when we got into it, so it was already out by the time we got into it. It was bigger and badder, but that was the brand new one, and that was the one that had Lotso and Syndrome and Madame M. So it was kind of notable for having Pixar characters.
Yes.
That was
Broke
it.
ground there.
That was all that existed at that time. Since then, we have had several expansions. The first one that happened while we were into the game was Filled with Fright, which was just Oogie Boogie.
Right.
That was Halloween 2023. Then there was Sugar and Spite last year. That was King Candy and Shere Khan. And then, obviously, this month we had Treacherous Tides, which is Davy Jones, and Tamatoa, which I'm sure a lot of people don't know who that is. It's that stupid crab from Mulan.
Yes.
Um, So, and then also at some point, I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was probably 2023. They did the introduction to Evil Box, which was they reworked some of the characters from the original box.
Right.
And they said simplifying. They definitely did simplify Ursula, but honestly, the rest of them I feel like are more complicated.
Interesting. Well, they
Well,
definitely said
Maleficent's
they
definitely
wanted to
more
make it
complicated.
more uh beginner friendly. Um,
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
about that.
Maybe the instructions they laid out differently. We haven't played that box
Well,
in
actually,
a
we've played it a
while.
fair amount, and I definitely remember. So I remember when it was coming out, and I was averse to these changes at first. I think ultimately we did kind of conclude that most of them were actually improved. You definitely, I know, liked Prince John better, and I didn't at first, but actually I came around on that where I liked him better too. And then Maleficent and Captain Hook, I think we thought were better. Captain Hook was mostly the same, but Maleficent,
Well, Captain Hook had a big
yeah,
if
and
flaw fixed with the
yes,
character.
he did. And then Maleficent, it just made it a little like she could win really fast if she wasn't faded heavily. So this one made it a little bit harder where she like had to have an ally before she could do a curse.
Yeah.
So it made her take longer to win, basically.
And
It
added a
made
little
it
more
harder. Yeah, it
strategy.
made it harder to do more strategy.
But
They totally screwed up Ursula.
oh my gosh, their theming for Ursula was good. Ursula was up top of my list for a while.
Yeah, in the original box, she was your number one.
Definitely for the original box. And then this one, they just completely threw away the theming, like
Yeah.
everything that made her work. And apparently, we had no idea because I was, I guess, really good at Ursula and
Well, I'm
won
also
with
really
her a
good at
lot.
her.
Okay,
She's my fastest win is with Ursula.
so that's fascinating because everyone talks about how like impossibly hard she
Hmm.
is.
Yeah, and when we say everyone, so I'm in a villainous group on Facebook that sort of people that are into villainous, and so they talk about it a lot about Ursula being tough. And then there was this old podcast that we found from many years ago, but I guess it wasn't during the first year because there were expansions coming out and stuff. I guess it was around the time the Cruella one came out
Okay,
that talked about the game, and they also were talking about how hard Ursula was.
which is so interesting because, well, anyway, so they made her easier, but also threw away the theming and a lot of what makes
Yeah,
her fun. And
yeah, she's definitely I think new Ursula is definitely the worst villainous character.
yeah,
Whereas old villainous, I mean, old Ursula, she's not like my number one or anything, but I think she's, you know, probably upper half. I don't know.
she's unique. She
Yeah.
works really well with the story. And a lot of these characters, they're really good at capturing
Yes.
the way that that character works in the movie, what their motivations are, how within the gameplay, within like what you are doing as that character. And some of them even putting you in the mindset of that character.
Yeah, that's true. Some are better than others, but in general, they do a good job where you're like, yeah, I can see what they're going for here.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about next. Was just the things that we liked about it. The reason that we've gotten really into the game. We've played we've played well over 100 games. We've played really we're much closer to 200.
Mhm.
And so we spend a lot of time playing the game because each game that we play takes a really long time because Reagan is slow and overthinks everything in her life, including games of Villainous.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I think my favorite thing about the game. So I came up with a little list. It wasn't like a ranked list or anything, but I was just like, coming up with things I like about the game. And the first thing I wrote down was that there's extreme variety in the game.
Yes.
There's a lot. So at this point, there are now 30 Disney characters, just Disney alone. And they all play totally different. No two game ever plays out the same. And then not only do they play different, they kind of interact with the other characters differently.
Yes.
And so there's just like an exponential number of combinations that you can test out since the characters interact in different ways.
And there's different dynamics if you're in a big group versus a small group with the same
Well, that is for
character.
sure, yes.
You can go up to six
They
people.
say six. Technically, there's nothing stopping you from going beyond that, but it would be pretty chaotic and
Yeah.
take a long time to do more than that. But that's the other thing that I wrote down. What's the next thing I wrote? But um, one of the things I wrote down was that the game is scalable. So the majority of our games have been one-on-one battles between the two of us, but the game is you can scale up to six. And we haven't done that a ton, but I know in Star Wars we did do five because we had every character in the original box was being used. And then I think I know we did Disney one time where it was me, you, Peyton, and Jet and Mom. So I guess that's five also.
But then with my family, I know we did Whitney, Harris, Hank, me, you, Dad.
Yeah, I guess so. That was a shitty game.
My dad won. Go dad.
Yeah, he was the original first one. So yes, that's one of the things that I think is really cool about it is that it works for a variety of different combinations of people, which is very cool. And it actually changes the game significantly when you do that. It
Yes.
does take time to learn the ins and outs of each character, which you can kind of view that as a negative in the sense that it can be difficult to get people into the game because of that. But also, the flip side of that, as I mentioned, I've played almost 200 games together. I feel like even now, I'm still constantly learning and coming up with new strategies. And it's not another game that we play a lot is Wingspan, right? Where Wingspan is a fun game, but it is not, and like because we have gotten expansions, there's a lot more birds to pull from and there's more goals to go for, and that helps. But I remember before we did that, I was just like, yeah, I'm plateauing on this game. I just feel like I understand what you're supposed to do in it, and every game is not different in the same way that Villainous is, because you're generally going for the same goals each
Sure.
time. And so I burned out on that game a lot faster than I did with Villainous, where I still kind of feel like we're just scratching the surface with it to a degree.
Sure. Well, and you can play a character. There's some where I've played them like 7 times and then like something unlocked in my brain and I was like, oh,
That's what I'm
there's a
saying.
totally different approach to this that I've been missing. And then also learning how to play against the characters, like how often they need to
Yes.
be fated, what fate cards to play
And
where.
that is a very interesting point as well because there have definitely been characters where when we first saw them, we were like, "Oh my gosh, this character is busted. How would this character ever lose?" And then now they lose all the time whenever we play. Lotso comes to mind with that. Dr. Facilier comes to mind with that.
Right. And I guess we should explain. So the fate cards, the fating, you do have your own board and your own goals. The only way you interact with other players is by sabotaging them with these fate cards. So you play
Well,
heroes against them.
the conditions are also somewhat interactive as well.
That's true. You're right.
Well, you're the more reacting to what another character does.
Yes. So you'll
'Cause
have a
you-
card that if someone else meets this condition on their turn, then you
Mhm.
get to do something.
Right, but yeah, fate is the main way, and so it's basically you're just kind of trying to obstruct them.
And for some people, that's a big turnoff. Like it's too mean.
Right. And
It
then it
is
is kind of the part of the
villainous.
deal. It's like, yeah, there is a sort of it's not a, like Wingspan is not a collaborative game at all by any means, but it's also not really, you're not really doing anything to negatively impact the other person. You're not trying to, I mean, you can technically if you know what their goals are, but you're not really supposed to know what their goals are.
No, yeah.
Whereas villain is everyone knows what everybody's goal is, and so you are actively trying to stop them from reaching that goal.
And it can be brutal.
Yes.
This game has brought me to tears one time.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know if it was my first time playing as Kylo
It
Ren.
was.
Um,
Yeah,
but
he's tough.
that can be pretty
We're
brutal.
gonna get into here like some of the harder characters and some of the more successful characters. Um, but yes, that is true. However, I also think that it's cool how it is kind of goes into the theme of the game where it's like you kind of get in the mindset of that villain. There's like some annoying hero that's like setting you back in some way, and you're like, Jesus Christ, now I got to deal with this crap.
Yeah.
So that is kind of cool in a way, and absolutely that is how you feel when you play the game.
Yeah, and if they're done well, then it's you feel specific types of annoyance or
Well,
anger
yeah,
with the
like in this
different
last game
heroes.
where I lost it. I really thought I had it with Davy Jones, who's one of the new characters, and then Captain Jack Sparrow screwed me up.
And he's less strong, like in terms of his strength score, than Will Turner and like someone else, which
Commander Norrington, I think.
they're like more straightforwardly
Common.
strong. But Jack
Right.
Sparrow, like in the right circumstances, can just be a big nuisance, and that's like great theming.
Yeah, it
We've
is.
finished all those movies before we
Yeah,
played.
because Reagan never really watched them.
Mhm.
But anyway, that was another thing, and we already kind of touched on it here. Was just the dedication to theming. Like I said, there's some duds. New Ursula comes to mind,
Sure.
but the game creators and Gaston, I would say, comes to mind. But the game creators do an excellent
Oh,
job of really theming each character's goal and play style to that of the character that they are based on, and they come up with some pretty creative stuff at times. Like, we've only played them a few times, but King Handy, like, it's a race. He races around his board trying to
yeah.
beat that little girl from the movie, whatever her name was.
His board set up totally different.
Hmm.
Towards all
And
kinds
that's
of
really
things.
cool. The Ursula one is really unique where she doesn't really use the same mechanics as everybody else. She can only go to 3 locations at a time instead of 4 because one of them's on land and one of them is in the ocean,
Mhm.
and she switches in the movie between being able to go between those places.
There's Radigan, who I fall into the same pitfalls that the character falls through in The Great Mouse Detective, where you can win as two ways. You can win as the superior mind or as like,
The rat,
yeah, the rat, which is just like frenzy, strength, whatever.
and it's much easier to win as the rat.
Yes, but I will lose as Radigan when I don't have to because I'm so
But you
determined to
did,
win.
didn't you?
Finally, I did win as the superior mind,
Yeah.
but I just like get so caught up in like that mindset of wanting to
Yeah, that
win.
one was one that they really nailed for sure, even though I don't really like that movie very much. So
No,
yeah.
and we have seen, I think I've seen all the movies for, not for Star Wars and for Marvel, but
Oh,
for,
have you seen the Dark Black Cauldron?
I was going to say, except the Black Cauldron for
And have you
Disney.
seen Sword in the Stone?
Now that one I was little, but I
Yeah,
have seen
me too.
it.
I don't remember Madam Mim at all, but I do know that I've seen the movie at some point in my life.
Are there any others you haven't seen for
I don't know.
Disney?
I didn't write that down. There probably are. If I look at the list here, I've seen everybody in the original box. Some of them it's been a longer time, of course. I've seen all of those. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the original cartoons with Pete, but I have.
I've seen
Yeah,
shorts.
well, that's what he's from. I have seen the Black Cauldron, but it has been a long time. I will admit. And then yeah, I guess other than that, I have seen them all actually.
A lot of them you hadn't seen until I showed them to you, but
That's true.
a lot of them,
The more recent ones, I did watch a lot of them when I was a kid.
having seen the movie and knowing those characters does enhance it. Like I think about
Hmm.
Mother Gothel. I
Yeah,
get really
that's
excited that
definitely true.
those people.
But that's part of that's kind of what it's something that I think of when it comes to Super Smash Bros. The video game.
Hmm.
Is those characters are enhanced whenever you have played those games before.
Mhm.
And because they do a really good job of their moves. It's just like all their mechanics, very similar to Villainous, except for in a video game form. Their mechanics all kind of point to their origins in their games. And so what it ends up being, and part of the reason that Nintendo does that series is because really what it is it's a gigantic freaking advertisement for all of their other properties. And so like this is a really good move from Disney because it kind of makes you want to watch those movies.
Yeah, and we will like rewatch stuff
Mhm.
before. There are examples where it doesn't help much. Like well, this Moana one that just came out. It didn't quite make me like Moana worse, but that villain is like one of the worst parts of that movie. And
Easily,
so like
yeah.
leaning into it, it just like we really love the beginning of Moana,
Yeah.
which is not the part of Moana where they
Those are
have anything to do with this villain.
right. So yeah, so those are all good things. Also because it's a card game, I enjoy randomization in general, and so I enjoy the inherent randomization that comes with that, and kind of some of the funny and desperate situations that can come out of that, which I think is fun.
Yeah,
I think generally the game looks very nice. The boxes are all very pretty and cohesive.
the art's
Most
great.
most of the game art is fantastic. There's definitely, I think, a collection element to getting all the characters in the little pieces.
Hmm. The pieces have grown on me a lot when I started holding them up to the light when we get them.
Yeah, because they kind of you can see through them.
Yeah, I want to get a display shelf where we have light shining up through them and because they look really cool with that element. Now, some pieces are better than others. Some are more
Definitely.
creative than others in how they integrate the like symbology with the characters. Um, and then there's the original uh Target version of the Star Wars pieces look like they were little pieces of paper crumpled up and thrown in there.
Yeah, I'm still not 100% sure if that was intended or if they just had some sort of defect.
I couldn't tell
They
you, but
said it
that
was
was a
intended.
mess. Specifically Darth Vader, it was so bad.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are really cool, and especially if you hold them out to the light when you get them. I promise they get 10 times cooler.
Yeah, and it's not like we said earlier, it's not the least intimidating game in the world to get into because there are a lot of characters and it does seem complicated whenever you're trying to learn the rules. But I also think that compared to a lot of like the more complicated, it's not anywhere near on the level of like the most complicated board games in the world. So it is possible to actually introduce this game to other players that are not as into games, compared to something that's more for enthusiasts and only accessible to people with a ton of time on their hands. So as we started collecting the Disney expansions, obviously Reagan has already kind of jumped the gun on this a little bit, but we learned that there was another very different brand coming to Villainous in the form of Star Wars. And this was probably my peak excitement with the series because I'm a huge Star Wars fan and just I was really into the game at that point. So the thought of melding this new board game I really liked with I would say my favorite franchise was ridiculously exciting.
And was this around the point that we were binging all
It
the
was yes.
movies?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Because I know we finished them at the Sanborns, but that might have been a different
Yeah,
sitting time.
I can't remember that. But the Star Wars version released in August 2022, and pretty quickly it became my favorite version of the game. I don't know if you feel the same way, but it is a little bit more complicated than the Disney version. I think it retains everything that's great about the Disney version, but it does have heavier mechanics. It has two currencies instead of one. It has the introduction of this whole extra mechanic with ships, which I like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just themed around. Well, I like a lot of the Disney characters they chose. Some of the Star Wars characters that they chose are like some of my favorite characters just in anything.
Sure.
And so that is super awesome.
And for me, I'm definitely more attached to a lot of the Disney characters than I am to Star Wars characters because I'd only seen one Star Wars movie before being with Andrew. Now, of course, I'm very excited if they ever make an Andor deck because that's the best thing that Star Wars has ever created, hands down. Um, but I think I like Star Wars better anyway, just because of the enhanced mechanics
Yeah,
and a lot
which
of
is saying a
people
lot.
there. Yeah, that's what I mean.
And then after exhausting all of the other options available to us, we finally did go ahead and collect the Marvel villainous characters as well.
Now, have we
Um,
played all of them that we own?
we have not even come close. It is definitely a distant third in terms of interest between the two of us. I would say, and certainly the game, but also the franchise itself, I would say Marvel is a distant third for me.
Sure. I had a phase where I was into it leading up to, Endgame, Infinity War and stuff, and then really fell off.
Which is, yeah, that's when it was, it might have been the same year Endgame came out, which was 2019. I think that was when they did the first Marvel box. It had Thanos on the cover. They were definitely leaning into that.
But they are more based on the comics than they are
Yeah, which
the
actually I think is
movies.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
Um, but the game itself, I think, is a lot sloppier with the
Yeah.
characters. Now, to be fair, a lot of these characters are not characters that we're super familiar with.
Yes.
But to me, they definitely don't seem as well thought out.
Well, for example, there's a lot of crossover with characters between the different villains. Like, with Avengers, you have a bunch of different comics coming together.
That's true.
Um, and you also have that problem with Star Wars,
Hmm.
except with Star Wars, you're not interacting with they don't call them realms in Star Wars, they call them sectors or
Vectors.
something. But Marvel,
There
there's
is
a lot
a
more.
centralized mechanic.
Yes, there's a lot more. Like, I think some of your characters can even go to other
Yes, they can.
places, and that makes it really messy when you have like multiple Spider-Mans, multiple whatever. Not that that's out of character for the Marvel universe. There's all sorts of,
Right.
I mean,
And so what we've been thinking, we have not really played this game in a larger setting, so it is possible that it translates quite well to a larger, more chaotic setting. But for duels, which is what we spend the most of our time doing when we play this game, not super well suited to that. I also think just the whole thing it just feels very cheap compared to the others. Remember, like
yeah.
this thing was like made of like this really crappy plastic, the power holder thing.
Yeah. No, a lot of the
And
set.
even the pieces I feel are not as and like the Star Wars ones are not like the most high quality builds either, but like just like the material that they used was worse, I felt.
Yeah. Well, I think it might be the same material that they did for the Center Star Wars one. So for
Oh,
the
yeah, I guess that one was fairly cheap as well, but we supplemented that with some wish purchases.
yes, so Etsy has a lot of great
That's
what are they called?
the
Not
3D
knockoff, but
printed things.
yeah, just like better versions of the cauldron and the power pieces and different like
Yeah,
enhancements
you can go crazy with it.
and I do think improves the experience. Like our power cauldron is
The
awesome.
the one thing, yeah, I generally agree. I don't really care that much about it, but I do like the little colored things that we have for power.
Yeah.
But what I really like a lot, the one that is my favorite, is the credits for Star Wars
Yes.
that are 3D printed. So I do like that a lot. I have a feeling the majority of the community feels similarly to us, and that there has not been a Marvel expansion since February 2023, which I think is
Mhm.
selling. During that time, they've released 3 Disney and 2 Star Wars expansions. So,
Yeah.
that I think that is notable. I do think that it is possible that if you're like just a really big Marvel fan, then especially of the comics, you might get out of it, get a kick out of it. And like I said, I do kind of appreciate that it is themed more off the comic books than the films. But yeah, we have not spent a ton of time with Marvel
Yeah.
ourselves.
I don't know if I got sidetracked. I know we were listing things we liked about it, and then we got into a rant about shitting on
Oh,
Marvel. Was there anything else that
I
on your list of great things about it that
I
we
don't think I
didn't
was
go over?
listing great things about Marvel.
No, not about Marvel, about
Oh no, I think we finished that.
okay, great.
I still think that we should, because we have them and we love the game. I still think that we should go back and give Marvel another shot, keeping our expectations more in check.
Yeah.
However,
Played it one-on-one, and I do think it's
well, I played it
designed.
against Mom one time, and that was actually the most fun I had.
Well, that was still one on
Oh
one
no,
though.
we played it with Hank one time.
Oh, okay. So that was a 3-person.
Yeah, it did not stick out to me though.
No. Me neither.
Yeah, so because we have them and I really love just Villainous the game, that's the core game. I do think that we should try it some more, but we kind of have not played Villainous very much lately. And so I'm definitely kind of more into it again just because we just got these new expansions. And so I want to focus on the ones that we really like for now
Yes.
instead of going back to Marvel.
Well, and the plan is to go through for Disney and Star Wars and do every character
One at a time.
once, one at a
Mhm.
time, and rank them
Yes,
as we
because
go.
I had lists already ranking the characters, and you did it first, but eventually you got to the point where you just didn't do them anymore.
Maybe
Like new
just the
characters,
last few expansions.
yeah, which is quite a few characters.
Okay.
And so you just never had a list with all the characters. I mean, you did, but eventually you didn't.
hmm
And so and we've been doing that with the Jackbox games as well. And that's
Mhm.
another one that we could do a podcast on, but that is a situation where we probably need to have played them all first. We have not played all the Jackbox games.
That's true.
But yeah, so and that has been fun. I really enjoyed doing them one at a time, ranking them that way. So we'll do that with Villainous, but it's gonna take more time with Villainous because it takes longer to play a Villainous round than a Jackbox round, that's for sure.
Sure.
But I wanted to share our current Villainous stats. So far, I have played 186 games of Villainous, and my record is 92, 92, and 2. There were a couple games we threw out because we screwed up something so badly that it was like, all right, well, this game is just, it has to be thrown out.
Yeah, one of them was so frustrating, and I didn't have to say anything because I discovered we had done it wrong on the very last turn. Like I won, I had a split second of, oh, I finally won as this character that I've tried like 7 times and haven't been able to win as. And then I realized that Andrew messed something up, and I didn't have to say anything. But I'm honest, and
Yeah.
I did.
Well, I would have figured it out eventually.
Would you?
Yeah, I'm surely I would have. Anyway, so I've played actually a few more games than Reagan has because she's played 181 games, and her record is 83, 95, and 3.
Hmm.
And so technically that is a worse record than mine. And that might make you think, based on stats, that I'm better at the game than she is. But I really don't think that I am. I get frustrated at times going up against her because while I do think we are fairly equal, or she might even be a little bit ahead of me, she spends way too much time overthinking and analyzing her moves, whereas I like to just keep things rolling as much as possible, which can sometimes lead to mistakes that I later end up kicking myself over.
Sure. And I mean, I think everyone makes those no matter how long you think about it. I do get caught up trying to think, 10 steps ahead, and then anytime one round goes by and something changes or one fake card is played, you have to like rethink all of that.
Right.
And I'm not very good under the pressure of being fast. So I like if someone's like, hurry up, my brain just goes, oh, they're waiting on you, they're waiting on you, and doesn't actually think about what I'm supposed to be doing.
It's very annoying, Trey.
So I'm not like the most fun person to play with.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking stuff through does help.
Yeah. So yeah, like I mentioned, there's 30 Disney characters. I have one with all but 3 of them. Those being the two. Well, most of them. It's basically the newest characters. So I've not won with Davy Jones. I did one with Tomotoa, but I've not won with King Candy or Shere Khan yet because I've only played them once because we played those new characters and then didn't go back to it, which is very sad. Which is why I'm glad that we're gonna actually get more into the game this time.
Yeah.
Reagan has won with all but 2 of the Disney characters. Her final holdouts are Davy Jones, which is new, and Scar, one of the older characters. So we've had Scar for longer than most.
I played
He
Scar
is really tough.
at least 10 times.
Well, here in a second, we're going to get into characters. I'm not going to go through everybody's record, but I'm going to give you the extremes at the top and bottom, and Scar is definitely toward the bottom. in terms of his overall records.
That lion.
In Star Wars, we have also not one with all the characters. Neither was the one with Darth Maul yet. It was a
Right.
relatively new character. And then Reagan also has not yet one with the Seventh Sister. But those are both very challenging characters.
Yes.
Um,
And
and
some of them, it partially depends on who you're up against. Like,
that's true.
there's one person in the original Star Wars deck, I believe it's Moff Gideon, or
Moff. Yeah.
Moff Gideon, that only has one fate spot.
Also, unless he plays a ship.
Okay. And Kylo Ren
Kylo Ren.
is extremely hard, but because he's so hard, you can get to win as. You can get lured into, well, his fate deck is just so brutal.
Well, Kylo Ren is a sprinter, but he's easily set back.
Yes, and so
he can actually win pretty fast, but you only if he's being faded a lot, like he's screwed.
So you can be like, well, he's really hard to win as. I'm not going to fade him. And then it's like, oh, I learned that lesson.
Mm-hmm.
He can win pretty fast if you forget about that.
Yeah.
But his best chances against Moff Gideon, who only has that one fate spot.
That's true.
So a lot of it depends on the matchups, which is part of what adds to the variety of the game and makes it so fun.
Yeah. And then we also haven't played the two new Star Wars characters yet, which are Grand Admiral Thrawn and Count Dooku. So hopefully we'll do that at some point this week. I was hoping that we would do it quicker than we have, but I haven't gotten around to it. And then, like I said earlier, Marvel's a mess. Neither of us have played most of the characters. I know I have one with Loki and Killmonger. Reagan has one with Killmonger as well, and Dr. Octopus. That's all I know for sure. In terms of overall standings, one thing I've noticed that's kind of interesting is no Disney villain seems to just totally run away with it. Like right now, technically, the Disney villain with the best record is Tamatoa, who is undefeated at 2-0. Because nobody has more than 2 wins than losses.
And he's only played against
David Jones.
David Jones.
But the Horn King is 6-4, so he's got a +2. New Maleficent, new Captain Hook, new Prince John, and Oogie Boogie are all also at 4-2. Although Oogie Boogie we realized was not being played correctly for some of those games because we had lost a card.
Yes, but that actually made it harder to win as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. So we didn't throw those out. At the other end of the spectrum, we have Scar with by far the worst record. He is 2 wins and 17 losses. And Reagan is behind a lot of them.
It's not just me. You've had plenty of Scar
I've
losses.
had plenty of Scar losses too.
Not
I am
as
the
many
only
as
2
me.
Scar wins, but one of them was against my mom, who is not as strategic of a villainous player. And Scar is another one that can win but a lot easier if he's not being faded a lot. And mom is not a big fader, so that did help significantly. So it's almost like I've only won once, but technically, that's an official win.
I love your mom, and it's so nice that she'll play with you one-on-one. But it does inflate your numbers a little bit. Your one-on-one
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. So yes, the other ones that are low, original Prince John has a record of 5-13-1. Mother Gothel has 3-10. So like they're pretty bad too in terms of their overall wins, which is interesting because Prince John is a very simple character, but harder to pull off than it seems. And the Mother Gothel, I mean, yeah, you just look at her and you realize that it's really tough.
Shout out to my dad for winning his
He's
game.
one of the 5. And then in Star Wars, though, there has been more of an obvious spread. Asajj Ventress has always led the pack. She's 9-5.
She hasn't always won, but yeah, she's always been.
She's always been at the lead. And then Darth Vader and Moff Gideon have 7-3 and 7-4. So they are pretty big winners consistently as well. Part of that is because I'm really good with Moff Gideon. And then the hardest character for Star Wars, definitely Kylo Ren. He's 4-14. And then we have the 7th sister is also really tough. She's only got 1 win so far. She's 1-6-1.
Oof.
And then General Grievous
I haven't tried as many with her. Well, I mean, I guess
it's 8 games.
Yeah.
And then General Grievous is 4-8. So he's also pretty tough. Although I like those characters a lot. And then we don't really have enough data to report on Marvel, but Killmonger is undefeated at 2-0. So he seems like he's pretty easy. So all that's left is I wanted to talk about what is next for Villainous. So we mentioned earlier that I definitely want us to rank all of the Disney and Star Wars characters, and as we go, come up with our definitive ranking of them, which we will share on the podcast when we finish that.
And I think then we'll get more into specifics about these characters and which ones we love and which ones
yeah, definitely
drive us crazy.
And I also think that it would be fun to do another elimination tournament for each. We only did that once for Disney and once for Star Wars, and they were a lot less characters back then. Particularly for Star Wars, it was only the original box, which that's you can't really do an elimination tournament with 5 characters. But now there's like 12 or something. So
And I think the Pixar box had just come out for Disney.
yeah,
They're really bad.
that was all that we had. So we didn't have Oogie Boogie or anything after that.
Mhm.
So it was probably about a third that's been added since then, almost.
Really? Well, I thought it's just been a two for
Oogie
one for
Boogie.
box and a two for box so
Is
far.
that right? Okay, well, 20. All right, so maybe more like a fifth or sixth, but still a significant number of characters. And we've also, that was earlier on. We definitely know the characters a lot better. The original winner was Lotso,
Right.
and I don't think he's won a game since because we've got him figured out.
Yeah, he can be brutal.
Yeah. In terms of future expansions, I know you have a lot of thought on this.
Oh,
So,
yes, I do.
what are your expansion wishes?
Well, there's one in particular that I feel very strongly about. And also, just from a business perspective, it baffles me that they have not done this yet.
Yes.
Um, and that is a Frozen pack with spoilers. If you haven't seen Frozen, go watch it immediately. What are you doing with your life?
Mhm.
Okay, you've been warned. Hans.
Yeah.
And of course, it could be because he's a twist villain.
King Candy's a twist villain.
But King Candy's a twist villain and Lotso's a
Lotso's
twist villain, so they don't have that excuse anymore. Frozen has given them more money than like anything animated
Yeah, I
ever.
think he'd be great.
What are they doing? It, so there's like fan versions of it where you can like print out your own cards and do it.
Yeah, and there's also on the whatever that software is that people use to play online. I forget what it's called.
Oh, yeah, whatever that is.
They have that too.
Um, so I mean, I'm a big Frozen fan, but even without being like, there's just a lot of iconic stuff you can do with that.
Mhm.
Come on, guys.
Yeah, is that it? That's your only big wish?
I know I had more, but I can't think of them off the top of my head.
I definitely think that I don't know that they really can do it, but I guess if I was gonna pick a Disney villain, I would do Frollo from Unexpected Notre Dame. But I mean, his goal is literally rape Esmeralda. So I don't know if they can really do that in just a Disney villainous version, or they might gimp him in some way.
Yeah, that's pretty
Um,
rough. Same with like Mulan, like that villain's what, genocide?
That's kind of fun. Like just like kill all the characters. Like that would actually be kind of a fun goal. That's kind of what General Grievous is going for, collecting the lightsaber pieces.
Yeah, but then like people buy like, oh, Mulan, like my kid can play this. Oh,
I think that's more doable than Frollo.
okay. I mean, you're not wrong.
Um, with Star Wars, I have bigger wishes. I would love to see an Andor villain. There are 3 available. It could be Cyril Karn. It could be Dedra Meero. It could be Orson Krennic. He actually has also been in Rogue One, so he seems like the most likely. But which would be great. I would be happy with any of those. And then I also think it's ridiculous that we don't have Emperor Palpatine yet as a playable character. He's the
Oh,
villain
sure.
of the franchise, and
And
in some ways, the deepest villain of the
yeah.
franchise.
Of course, the other one I feel strongly about is Deidre and Karn
Yeah, I would love
from.
either of them. That would be super exciting.
Mm.
Um,
As a joke one, I want Darla from Finding Nemo. Trying
oh,
to flush them down the toilet and they're evading.
yeah,
Or shake their bag. That's what she does.
could see that being frustrating. I really have 2 things that are not exactly expansions. One of them, but I guess you kind of call it an expansion. I don't think either of them are very likely. But both of these would be like for me to be the most excited about what could possibly happen with the game. These are the things that I would be most excited about. One of them would be a Final Fantasy version.
Hmm.
I don't think that's going to happen, but because Disney does not, they seem to only do Disney-owned franchises,
Sure.
which is a lot of franchises as it turns out, but probably too many.
Ever expanding.
But they do not own Final Fantasy at this time. And although they have worked with Square in the past for Kingdom Hearts, so it's not the most impossible thing in the world. Final Fantasy also just partnered with Magic the Gathering. There's a Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering set.
Mm.
So it's not really like it's not a 0% chance, but
Yeah.
it's very low. But that series I think would really do quite well with Villainous. It has a lot of colorful and varied and excellent villains. And I think it would be fun to see the game's mechanics applied to them.
You just want to play Sephiroth. We know it's okay.
It's
You
not
can
just
do that.
Sephiroth. I love all many Final Fantasy villains.
Sure.
But I also maybe even more than that, what I would like to see the most, and it could happen, you never know, but I would like to see a digital version of the game. An official digital version of the game like we have with Wingspan.
Of course, you want everything on a screen.
Well, yeah, because then you can like actual like I don't really do this with Wingspan, but like the idea of just randomized matchmaking with people online playing Villainous would be awesome.
I don't know. In my head, that just means like people drop out, and then it's just like, well, all
It's
that
a moral
time
victory
wasted.
right there.
But I don't know. Like they could have gone into labor. Who knows?
But whatever, still a moral victory.
I like the feel of physical cards and
Yeah, I do
back and
too, and I
forth.
don't think it's as big a pain to set up as Wingspan certainly, but I would like to do that. I would spend a lot of time with that, I think.
Sure.
And that will give me a chance to play with people that are not just you, and so I'd probably get through a lot more games a lot more quickly.
Is there
If I could
anything?
get your mom into it, then I bet we could get through some games a lot faster too.
Mm, is there anyone else you'd want to see? Now we've opened up the live action movies into play with.
I don't know. What other live action series are there? I don't really care.
I don't know. I haven't thought about it much, but
They
I
don't
think
really
there's
have a
something.
lot of live action series.
Give me Sharpay.
Jesus,
I'm gonna die on this
that's
hill.
not gonna happen. So anyway, those are kind of our dreams for the series, and we will be talking about our lists in the future. So that's exciting. So if any of that sounds fun, any future discussions about Villainous, and you stay tuned to the show because we are going to have some more of that coming on eventually. I'll also be going back to my top 100 artists series, likely next week, and continuing with that afterward for what will be a marathon ranking of my top 500 songs. That's going to take a very long time to get through all that. We also need to get back to our Game of Thrones and Andor series,
House of the Dragon's got to be
if I
coming
could
up.
ever find the time to put those together. So look forward to that as well. But we still have plenty of things to talk about on the show for sure. So in the meantime, remember you can write to the show at controlledburns with an ES at gmail.com. If you like the show, you can subscribe, follow, like, review wherever you listen to your podcasts. But that's it for this time for now. And until next time, keep it warm.
Keep it warm.